Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. Today we're talking the basics of salamanders. You may have seen salamanders pop up in a lot of Fangs of Sotek lists lately. So, what do they do? Now, just take a look at how beautiful this model is. This is a GW model from, I'm pretty sure before I was born, and I think it may still come in metal. This salamander is not our best looking model. It still has its charm if you like the old stuff. One of these days, we'll probably get an updated salamander model, and it will be glorious. But let's see what these things are good at. Salamander hunting pack. Let's go real quickly. You can all read War Scrolls. Go look at this up in your app. We've got 1 wound. That's not accurate. You'll see why in a second. 8-inch move, 4 up save, 5 bravery. That also isn't accurate. You'll see why in a minute. The reason those aren't accurate is because if we look at the description here, salamanders, 1 in every 4 models in this unit is a salamander instead of a skink handler. That salamander has a wounds characteristic of 3 instead of 1 and is armed with stream of fire and burning jaws instead of the goad. So that means you have 3 handlers and 1 salamander. That means you have 3 wounds on the salamander and 3 wounds on the handlers. So that's 6 total wounds that you have in this unit. You're pretty much always going to reinforce a unit of salamanders, so you're talking really about 12 wounds on a 4-up save. The bravery isn't accurate because this is bravery really only in Coalesce. You're going to have a salamander bravery of 5 in Coalesce. That's terrible. That you will have some run in Coalesce. But in Starborn, Fangs of Sotek, Dracothian's Tail, that bravery is increased to a 10, which is generally where you'll see salamanders. So that's some of the basics. Here we go. Here's where the fun part starts. Missile weapon, stream of fire, 12-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 rend, D3 damage. But look at the ability of it burns. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a stream of fire or burning jaws is 6, that attack inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target unit and the attack sequence ends. Do not make a wound or a save roll. This is what you're taking those salamanders for. You're fishing for those D3 mortal wounds. Now the good part is this missile weapon has -2 rend, so the mortal wounds isn't necessary. -2 rend is really good, especially for a shooting attack. And we have other ways to get an extra -1 rend. Purple Sun, Starseer, we can get an extra -1 rend on this attack if we need it. But 12-inch range is important because the Salamander's primary goal is your teleporting assassins. You're going to be sending these guys around the board, picking off those hard-to-kill units. So you see something with high armor, you're teleporting these Salamanders over to try to do mortal wounds and high-rend attacks. That's what they're designed for. That's what they're good at. 12-inch range means that they can teleport outside of 9 and still shoot. Generally, you can still shoot over their screen unless they've deployed, perfectly. Melee weapons, burning jaws. We have 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 rend, D3 damage. If you notice, that's the same profile as the missile weapons. Well, 1 less attack. But that means they're going to hit as hard in melee almost as their shooting attack. And you've really got to combo that together. So you want to get this unit to teleport, shoot, and then charge. The way you can do that is with your Sacred Asterisms. If you're in Fangs of Sotek, a lot of times you'll be using like the +1 to run and charge Sacred Asterisms in your hero phase. So that way you teleport these outside of 9, you shoot, and then you only have to roll an 8 on the charge because you'll be at +1. So you want to get these Salamanders in combat. Now remember, these aren't going to take out like a Mega Gargant in 1 turn. Even if a reinforced unit here isn't going to do that kind of damage. This is that targeted, that scalpel attack of their important pieces. You're playing against something that, well, let's just take Seraphon for an example. They have a Skink Priest. You need to take out that Skink Priest. They have a Star Priest. You need to take out that Star Priest. They have a Slan. You need to take out that Slan. Maybe they have a Bastildon that you need to bracket down. These mortal wounds will do that. So you're looking to take off those important pieces with this focused fire. Some of the benefits of Salamanders, they are a great unit to reinforce. So we do like to reinforce our units of Salamanders, especially in things like Fangs of Sotek, where you can buff them up and then send them in. And then once those get mixed into combat, yada, 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 you buff up another unit and send them in. So great unit to reinforce. We do get pretty low on reinforcement points in Fangs of Sotek, but generally you'll see a unit of Skinks reinforced twice, and then your Salamanders using up your other reinforcement points. Handlers provide a wound cushion. They do so before you ever apply wounds to your Salamander, you're going to take off your handlers. They literally do nothing other than provide some extra wounds. They used to provide like a reroll hit roll of 1 maybe in the last War Scroll. That was years ago though. Now they're literally just there as wounds. So kill off those handlers first. And here's the fun part. If you have, the next one is Rally is great for Salamanders. And here's why. Because let's say you lose, in a reinforced unit of Salamanders, you lose 3 handlers of one Salamander, 3 handlers of another one. So you've taken 6 wounds so far. Now you lose 1 Salamander. So you've lost another model. You've lost 7 models. And you still have 1 Salamander left. Now your hero phase comes around, or a hero phase comes around. You use Rally. You're going to roll 7 dice. On a 6, you can bring back any model you want to. Are you going to bring back a handler? No, you're going to bring back that dead Salamander. So unless they kill the unit completely, you're generally going to be able to bring back the other Salamander. Unless you're terrible rolling 6s. All right. Another benefit is one of our only sources of -2 rend. The army really doesn't have any other -2 rend other than the Salamanders. And what? I can't even... Razordons in melee. But it's just Razordons are terrible right now. So one of our only sources of -2 rend. We can pump that up with some other stuff, but natively, this is our only thing with -2 rend. So pros in Starborn, they can teleport. They get extra movement in Fangs turn 1. So you do get that +3 to move. And so when you're moving 8 inches, you get an extra 3. If you have a Skink Star Priest, you could run and shoot and charge with their special ability. So a lot of times what you may see is a Salamander hunting pack being teleported and then another one running and shooting. And now you've got, 2 reinforced units of Salamanders, 4 Salamanders hitting the target that you want. A pretty good strategy. They do have high bravery in Starborn, and they can deploy off the board in Dracothian's Tale. So Dracothian's Tale, you'll see them a lot where they deploy off the board. You bring them down exactly where you need them in your turn. Pros in Coalesce, they do get +1 jaw attack in melee, which is good, but there's a lot of other downsides. Those downsides in Coalesce are no teleport, bad bravery, and they take full damage. They don't get scaly skin in Coalesce anymore. So there's a lot of downsides in Coalesce and not really a lot of upsides. So Salamanders really shine in Starborn. They're still good to use in Coalesce, but they really shine in Starborn. Let's talk about some of the damage. 1 Salamander in shooting isn't really all that good. You may have heard a lot of horror stories of Salamanders, and they are good, but they do need a little bit of help. You do need to realize that these things aren't going to, lift a Mega Gargant in 1 turn. So in the shooting phase against the 4-up save, they're doing 3.5 damage. That's 1 Salamander. Not impressive. Shooting and melee, you're seeing they're nearly doubling their damage because they have a very similar profile in melee as they do shooting. So getting into melee is important. 2 Salamanders in shooting and melee. This is 280 points. Comes out to about 12 damage versus a 4-up save. You can see a lot of that is coming from mortal wounds and that high rend, because even against a 2-up save, you're still doing almost 10 damage. So, that's enough to kill off some pretty hardy targets. A lot of things are going to fall to that, but don't send it into 40 zombies, because you're going to be wasting your time and they're going to come back and just insta kill you. Use your horde of skinks for things like that. Your big horde of skinks is for those mass units with terrible saves. These Salamanders are your scalpel. I'm going to say that over and over again because that's what they're for. Take out those high value targets, not your big wound sinks. What's my next slide? Oh, this is Uh, this is just me being a little salty. Salamanders, you know, they used to be just OP. They were super cheap. They did a lot of damage. But like, here's another unit, Fulminators, 230 points that do more damage base than a reinforced unit of Salamanders, and that's not even reinforced Fulminators. So, you know, if your friends are upset about your Salamanders, just remind you, damage has outpaced Salamanders at this point. They're still good. Don't get me wrong, especially with all the tools we have, they are still very good. And maybe I shouldn't have compared them to one of the best units in the game, Fulminators. Anyway, that was. I probably should have deleted that slide. Here we go. Buffed up 2x Salamander. So this is, I think, what your standard buffs are going to be. What this is you're buffing up a unit of Salamanders and then teleporting them in. So this is +1 to hit from Skink Priest, or you can always do all-out attack if you need to. But +1 to hit from Skink Star Priest. Skink Priest. From your Skink Star Priest, you're getting mortal wounds on 6s to wound, because you know you might always need more mortal wounds for your Salamanders. That's not necessary on Salamanders. A lot of times you'll be putting that on your Skinks, but it is good if you know you're going into a high value target. And then Hand of Glory gives them reroll hit rolls of 1. That's very important. I love that one on them because you're fishing for those 6s to hit. Any chance you get to reroll any missed hits, trying to fish for those 6s is fantastic. Now we see our damage is quite a bit better. Against a 4-up, you're doing almost 20 damage. Against a 2-up, you're doing 14 damage, 14 and a half damage. That will kill a lot more of those high value targets. You're looking at killing a Bastildon. Maybe I guess I don't have a 1-up damage, 1-up save calculation in here. But you're able to kill a lot of things. That's where those Salamanders get their bad name from. Still, don't take this into these giant hordes. You know, this is to kill off those tough heroes. This is to go into like a Maw Crusher. This is to go into, you know, these big monsters that will do damage to you otherwise. This is, you know, throw this into a Kron's fine. Maybe. Kron spines are tricky. We'll see if they get buffed or get nerfed here pretty soon. But Salamanders are your scalpel. We've said this many times in this video. They're your assassins, your scalpels. Send them after those hard targets. What does a list look like? And I think here's maybe a sample list of a Fangs Sotek. Look back at some of my previous videos. We have lots of Fangs of Sotek doing well right now, and I think Salamanders is one of the reasons, but also just the flexibility of the army. You can do a lot in a Fangs of Sotek army. A lot of board control, a lot of play in the game the right way, as well as, you know, killing everything. Salon Star Master with command trait Arcane Might, Arcane Tome, and Stellar Tempest. So this Salon is a very good caster in this setup. We have a Skink Star Priest with Hand of Glory, a Skink Priest with Curse. Curse just helps you give extra mortal wounds because you need lots of mortal wounds. An Astrolith Bearer with Serpent God Dagger. That's the artifact we need for Fangs of Sotek. Maybe he can insta-kill something, put something in his dagger, kind of like Archaon. Also buffs all our casting, gives us, you know, summoning points, etc., etc. Battle line, we have 2 minimum units of Skinks and a big old unit of 30 Skinks. Put those in Expert Conquerors. Okay, to be honest, I think I made this list a while back and screenshotted it. So those Skinks should be in not Expert Conquerors. They need to be in Bounty Hunters. Let's be honest. Skinks and Bounty Hunters is a lot of fun. Anyway, on to Source Guard to protect our Salon. And then we've got our 2 reinforced units of Salamanders. A Bastildon with Arc of Sotek, just to give us a nice little punchy monster to take up some board space. And we have Purple Sun and Jaws. You can obviously switch those out. You can upgrade the Bastildon if you want to. There's a lot of room to play with those endless spells. Purple Sun is great because it gives you extra rend. Now your Salamanders are going to hit on -3 rend. That's always nice. Or Skinks get rend from that Purple Sun, which is very good. Jaws, mortal wounds. So you've got lots of mortal wounds in this list. You still have, 60 shots from the Skinks. You've got Salamanders teleporting everywhere, and you're going to be summoning things in. So a good all-around list with some high damage, some high quantity shots, good magic dominance, and a monster to take up the board. So fun stuff. Salamanders still very good in the utility that they bring a list. They're not going to win a game on their own, but if you use them correctly, you go after the right targets, you buff them up when you need to, and teleport them, and burn things down. All right. Let us know in the comments below how you use your salamanders. Give me some good stories of some salamanders. If I missed something, let us know below. And we'll see you next time.